Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Team Tuesday. This week we have with us Anna Bengham. Hey Anna, welcome back.
Hi Vasquez, I'm here. Thank you.
So,
Is it Vasco? Sorry, Vasco. I keep saying Vasco.
Correct. That is correct. There are many ways to say the name, and all of them are right. I can't complain very much because I murder everybody's name anyway here on the podcast. So we'll talk about teams today. Of course, it is Team Tuesday. But before we dive into that, share with us, what's the book that most influenced you in your career as a Scrum Master?
All right, thank you. Wow, just to share one, so I've read several because of how I came into the space. I rely on the books heavily for me to be able to get to where I am today. And I'm still reading, I'm still listening to your podcast up to this day, just FYI. So I will say the Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick, I'll probably butcher his last name too, Lencioni. And then the Agile Coaching by Rachel Davies and Liz Sedley. This book, the Agile Coaching, for example, at a certain point, I think my year 2 or 3, I started using that heavily because of where I have been in the career that I'm in right now, right? But the Five Dysfunctions of a Team, that was one of the first books that I read. And I think every Scrum Master should get a chance to at least read this book because it just offers really practical guides or a framework in like addressing and helping mitigate like destructive patterns and habits that can sometimes, plague the team or get in the team's way of truly being agile. So it's just a story that I would like to share, and that this book, essentially, because I was reading this book, have read this book, has helped. It definitely helped me. So I was working in a large organization where developers were responsible for maintaining critical software system for managing, financial transactions. It was very significant. It had a significant impact on the organization's operations, and some team members were offshore and some were onshore, meaning that some were in the U.S. and some were like in India and China. And one of the things that I noticed on this team was everybody was okay with everything. There was fear of conflict. And team avoided it at every cost to just have differences, and even just they just wanted to have, from a team perspective, they wanted to look like it was a happy environment. But in reality, when I have one-on-one perspective, that's when those little concerns were coming up, and I realized that I needed to be in two places. One, I needed to stand back and understand, because the easier reaction is to say, hey, I want to coach you so you can be able to bring this up. And then another part is, at least right now, they're just telling me. They're open enough to tell me what is happening with them. So let me listen and ask from their perspective, how would they want me to move forward with the information that they're sharing. Now, if there's things that is like, really impacting the team itself, yes, I'm going to jump in and say, hey, I think this will be really helpful if we can just bring it up for a discussion. But if it's something that I believe that it will make more sense for them, what I did say to them was, I will bring it up as a question, right? My observation. Hey, team, I've observed X, Y, and Z. I just wanted to make sure I bring it up for discussion so that way I'm not cornering them in any way. So that has always been my approach. So I learned that, throughout the phase, and it made me started setting more meetings with some of the teams offshore because there was also so little gap for us to have conversation. For example, one of the things that I would essentially say is like maybe one person have done implementation and now the other person offshore is doing peer review. And throughout the peer review, and they realize some misalignment. Now, they don't want to bring it back to that person to say, hey, these are some of the errors I've seen in the code, because they don't want that person to feel bad about the work that they've done. So they will just go ahead, either fix it and move forward, just to avoid any back and forth. Another situation that I did observe was cultural differences would be maybe a senior team member from the offshore team has spoken, and and another team member on that same offshore also have something to say, but they will not say anything. They'll ping me to the side and say, hey, Ian, I was thinking this. And I said, well, how come we didn't just say it in the meeting? Right. So that was the different things that I was saying. One was just cultural differences of how do I approach, how do I have a direct, honest conversation if something didn't look right with the work. And the second one is how do I express my idea and not seeming as though I'm overstepping boundaries with a senior
Since
team.
since today's Tuesday and we are diving into team patterns, I think it would be cool to explore this pattern a little bit further. So as the team members were coming to you one-on-one, kind of sharing, in confidence what was going on from their perspective. So that was, as you said, there was some opening already for you to help them. But they were still not able to bring that up in the meetings and discuss that directly with each other. What did you do to try to help them kind of feel secure and safe enough to bring those topics up?
Yep, absolutely. So I think I actually share one of the ways that I used to use it. One is I asked them, what is your level of comfort of me bringing this to the team? And if they're self-conscious about it, I said, okay, how about I take this as my observation, right? Hey team, I noticed this, or maybe if it's specifically through the code, of course I wouldn't have, because I'm not coding the work, I'm not doing implementation of the work. I may or may not have, depending on how technical I am, right, for the team to be like, why? How do you know about that, right? In that specific. So I would say, and like depending on how we're delivering for that sprint, I can bring it from a delivery standpoint and say, hey, let's look at metrics and talk through how can we make this better. And then that way it brings up different conversations from the team perspective. And Vasco, one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to conflict heavy, sensitive discussion is helping the team to understand that nobody's here to attack. We're only here to help make it better. And so that was something that I always had to, you know, from a standpoint of a Scrum Master, always have to share with the team to make sure that they understand that we're not here to point fingers. We're only here to make it better for the next time.
Yeah, we're here to
Once
attack
they
the
understood that,
problem, not the people, right?
exactly. So once they started having that mindset, it was easier for us to have those type of
What do you
discussions.
think moved them? Because of course there's always some resistance the first time. Okay, like people are afraid to come up with the topics in their meeting. So obviously just saying it is not going to help, right?
Absolutely.
Perhaps repetition helps, perhaps some example helps. What do you think really moved that team to feel safer and bring up the topics?
I started using myself an example. I made mistakes. I was very transparent and just vulnerable in front of the team. And so was the product owner. Myself and the product owner were very vulnerable in things that were happening. So we were openly just sharing and saying, hey, team, definitely missed that. We'll try to be better. So there were times where even when I would be out and say, hey, team, this sprint, this was some of the things that we said we wanted to do. I didn't get a chance to do X, Y, and Z. And then another team member would say, hey, I didn't get a chance to finish this because of X, Y, and Z, right? So now they're following through with what I have started with, But initially, I think what really moved them is understanding, getting to that place of trusting each other, right? And building that communication. So what I started doing, and also when we get to meetings, is doing uh, little icebreakers that will get them to share differences of mindsets. Would you rather type of questions, right? It gets people out of their shell. So before that meeting, that would have those type of intense conversation, we would have those type of conversation ahead of time to get them to start thinking through of problem solving or just sharing their expression of ideas. If you were to get $1 million today, how would you use the money? If would you rather, walk to the bus stop, or if I give you 10 million, would you, would you stay home all day, right? So it introduced activities that would get them outside of the box, outside of the way of them thinking beyond just group thinking, because that's what we got a lot of. And it also get them in the place where they were able to start bringing new ideas, right? Which is where we want innovation to happen with team members that came from just okay, everything looks fine, and then in the bigger scheme of things, nothing is really fine, and now we're trying to fix it, right? So I think that from the perspective of me, one, being vulnerable with the team, two, also creating a safe environment for them as far as like introducing icebreakers that allow them to be able to have those type of um, uh, uh, a safe space to share their ideas and have differences, as well as being transparent with them that this conversation is for us to solve the problem, not to attack the person.
Yeah.
Right. I think that those type of reputation and also getting them involved. So I also another thing that I did was started asking them who would be interested in leading this meeting, right? Because now it takes them away from, if the person that spoke the most was the first person that I asked, like, would you be interested in doing this? And once they say yes, okay, then now it allowed the other people that normally would be quiet to be able to share some more. Right. So I had to do several different things to get them that way. But I will say it did not happen yesterday. And it took some time for them to really get to the place where they can be more open to.
And it does take time. I mean, these processes take time, and it's great to have many ideas because not all ideas will work with the different teams. So we need to try
Absolutely.
and experiment and learn what works with the teams that we are working at every time. I used to say that every day we meet a different team because the same person has a different state of mind every day. And when you put all of those states of mind together, there's a completely different dynamic in the team. And we need to be very aware of those differences. It's not just the cultural differences, those are important. It's also what has happened to that person over the last 24 hours. And that can bring a lot of difference, a lot of change to their behavior. But that was a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.